morning. You are watching or listening to, as the case may be, or otherwise absorbing through osmosis, DeProgram with Ted Rall and Jamarl Thomas for Wednesday, August 19th, 2026. Thanks for joining us here. Please like, follow, and share the show. If you're watching live on YouTube or Rumble, please go ahead and post your questions and comments in the live chat. Producer Robbie will get to all of that and feed it up to us. We especially appreciate you're becoming a subscriber on YouTube or on Rumble. We really need more subscribers. We'll be revisiting later in the show as people trickle in exactly what you get at the various levels and how much each of those levels cost. Okay, a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to take these in reverse order just because. So you've heard of fake news. Now there's fake polls. Turns out that a company called Median Strategies was seeding fake poll results throughout the primary process earlier this year, including in that primary in Michigan that got really confusing, involving Haley Stevens and Abdul Al-Sayed. They said it was a short-term social experiment to expose how quickly false information could spread. Little, I guess, considering the fact that it could have real-world repercussions in the worlds of politics. A big victory in yesterday's primaries. As producer Robbie pointed out, AIPAC had a great day. 200 plus of their candidates won, but they also lost a big one in the state of Florida, where State Rep Angie Nixon, who is a progressive, who was so broke she couldn't afford to run a single ad on TV, defeated corporatist AIPAC candidate Alex Vindman, who had 16 times as much money, and she won so handily. She did so handily. And then the lead story for today, at least for us, and we'll talk about other stuff that you guys want to talk about as well, is this story. It's like sometimes things are too bad to be true. And the Ivy League, the idea that the Ivy League was rife with anti-Semitism just sort of never really made any sense. And now we have a DOJ whistleblower who confirms that the Trump administration ginned up all of these anti-Semitism accusations against schools like Columbia and Harvard and made the whole thing up in order for political reasons and to shake them down for money. So
I assume that. I assume that. Well, I don't know about the shake them down for money part. I didn't assume that part. I assume they made it up.
Well, now we know. So basically, the details are very ugly. So this former Justice Department attorney, Haley Van Erem, or it's E-R-E-M. I'm assuming it's Erem or Erem. Anyway, Ms. Van Erem basically issued a formal complaint through the whistleblower process at the Department of Justice. And she quit last year. She was assigned to these anti-Semitism probes as part of the Trump administration involuntarily. When she got in there, she found that the outcomes of the investigations were, quote, predetermined without regard to evidence in a political mandated effort, end quote, to shake money out of schools through settlement demands and funding freezes, that the anti-Semitism thing was a complete pretext, and also that there was a strong racism motivation here, that they specifically, quote, targeted some Middle East studies faculty for the content of their work and other professors for their Muslim faith. And many of those professors were fired and still don't have their jobs back. I'm sure there will be no accountability for this. I'm sure they won't be rehired or apologized to or offered back pay or anything like that. But, the whole thing, I will say, so on TMI, when the Gaza protests were happening, the encampments were happening at Columbia, I broadcast live from the encampments. And I went into Columbia because I'm a Columbia alumnus. So I have an alumni card, and I was able to gain access, even though they had locked off the university. And I walked around campus. And Jamarl, we've never talked about it, you and I, but this was a really crazy making experience. So I'm walking around College Walk, which is 116th Street. To my south is the encampment, very sleepy. Nothing's going on. The kids are there's no protest, there's no chanting. The kids are either milling around or sleeping in their tents. It's a quiet, warm day. And I encountered this Jewish woman within the arms of her rabbi, right there, and she was sobbing uncontrollably. And she said, and she was saying to him, "How can they think like this? How can they do this?" And I'm looking around, thinking, like, did I just miss something? Did someone just like say something anti-Semitic to her? Did she see an anti-Semitic sign? Did you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for, like, what's she reacting to? And she wasn't reacting to anything. There was literally, I stayed there long enough and I asked her, were you attacked? Did you see, did you or anyone you know, were you called at any names? Were you insulted? And it came down to, when she was able to talk about it, she was just upset that they were criticizing Israel for their genocide in Gaza. That's all it was. There was nothing to it. And she made, and I made a lot of this experience because for me, I think there was a lot of this going on. That, like, I often wear a keffiyeh before any of this started. I like it. I like the way it looks. I picked it up in the West Bank. It's a useful scarf. I was wearing one, around the time that this happened. I'm like not going to stop wearing it because, of all this. And at the 72nd Street and Broadway subway station, this guy, I guess Jewish, screams at me, and he goes, "That you're wearing a swastika." And and it was just like, so basically any indication of solidarity with, or even just a reflection of Palestinian culture, which is all a keffiyeh is like something that, like, for some Zionists, triggers them into making the leap into, that's the same as we want to shove Jews into ovens. It's obviously madness, but it's a widespread phenomenon.
Ted, I lost a client yesterday. I got an email from a pastor. He has a church in Tennessee that I've been doing their social media stuff for like a year and a half. Nice guy. And he said that it has come to my attention of your anti-Israel bias. And if you're going to continue working with First Baptist Church, you must publicly apologize to the Jews, to God's chosen people.
Here's my apology.
And you must do so on the show that you used to slander the God's nation of Israel. This is
it's your big chance, Robbie. You have the mic right now. Go ahead.
It
apologize. Repent.
I just sent him the link. Fuck Israel. And fuck you and your apology. I will never do it. Never. I serve the cross, not the Star of Rim fan. You, sir, are a false shepherd. You are a liar. You are misleading your flock. And I hope that they leave your church in droves. You, sir, are scum. And if I go bankrupt because of this, eat a dick.
I like your style, Robbie.
I would have just sent him a dick pic. Some randos dick pic.
He doesn't deserve my own dick. He deserves a random.
Yeah, you don't deserve mine. I don't know. I experienced this through rage, which makes it difficult to think it through. That woman puts me in the mind. I mean, I think she encapsulates the war in its entirety. You have a woman who nobody is touching, nobody is doing anything to, screaming, crying bloody murder for things that are in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
And from the standpoint of the state of Israel, meaning what's more important to her is that these people are camping out, not the fact that Israel has murdered 100,000, if not more people, 2/3 of which are women and children, 30% of which are babies. That doesn't matter to her, right? What matters to her is, oh my God, I can't believe you guys feel this way about the state of Israel. As it goes through systemically murdering, raping, killing, and pillaging all of these areas, not to mention going into Lebanon, or for that matter, going into Syria. Like, I have no sympathy for her. In fact, I think she's a lunatic. She probably needs medical attention. She's nuts. And these people out there who's making this argument like, oh my God, the fact that they're camping out. Them camping out is to make the point that your colony of squatters is on a murder spree that the United States is fundamentally absolving. I mean, for fuck's sake, they were starving local populations and then shooting those populations when they would go and get food, and they were doing it for sport. They enjoyed it. They got a sick sense of satisfaction out of it. I could show you the videos of the soldiers that were doing it. So yeah, I have no sympathy for that woman. I think she's nuts. And fact of the matter is, from my point of view, they're not always compromises. There are certain times that sides need to lose. That it's meaning they need to fail and fail completely and absolutely. And this is one of those times. That woman is a dinosaur. And she may be a very nice person to her grandkids and to her other people and everything else. But if she's defending a genocidal regime, then yeah, I don't think much of her. And I agree with you. I think a lot of that was taking place. And what makes it worse, and what makes this argument difficult for me is that she may have been serious. Like, meaning from her point of view, there might have been no malice in it at all. It might have really been, oh my God, I can't believe they feel this way about the Jews. And it's not about the Jews. It's about a colony of squatters that just so happen to be Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the Judaism is not the issue. The Zionism is the issue. The political affiliation.
And it's the specific fact that the complicity with the United States. I mean, one of the big definitions that sort of modern Zionists try to append to the traditional definition of anti-Semitism is subjecting Israel to special or additional criticism that other countries are not subjected to. Look, when Myanmar goes after the Rohingya, they don't do it with American bullets and bombs. Right. When the rapid the support forces go after ethnic minorities in Darfur, they don't do it with U.S. Financial and logistical support. Israel does do that. They're the number one biggest recipient of U.S. assistance, militarily, intelligence, and economically in the world. We ignore famines while we're sending billions of dollars to Israel. That's different, right? I mean, it's our business. It's that thing like when you're lending money, or, if you have a friend who you're lending a lot of money to, and they say, and you're like, hey, you sure are snorting a lot of cocaine. And they're like, it's not your business. Oh, it's my business because that's my money you're using to do that with. And like what Israel does is my business because they're doing it with my money. What Myanmar is doing sucks, and maybe we should say something about it, but it's not my business really. It's not like I'm not implicated. So this whole thing is, by the way, yesterday, I wanted to mention this on the show. I'm glad that we're talking about this. I wanted to get your take on it, JT. So I was using several like ChatGPT, Grok, those kind of Claudes, to try to see doing some research on a piece about the aspect of the genocide that is often not talked about, which is not just the killing of the people, but the systematic destruction of the infrastructure, right? Like not only first you bombed an entire area, but then you send in special teams to blow up and detonate whatever buildings managed to survive in whole or in part afterwards. And I thought, so I was researching that, and all of them, when I said, please compare this tactic with similar tactics that Nazi Germany might have used during World War II. And they were all programmed to say that there is no such comparison. Israel is engaged in the process of going after a violent military adversary. They're defending themselves from 2023. And I'm like, I didn't ask you about, I'm not asking you about October 7th. I'm not asking you about that. I'm just saying, did Nazi Germany ever go in to do similar things? So when I rephrased the question and I said, take out the comparison with Israel, and I'm just like, okay, did Nazi Germany ever go in and detonate buildings after saturation bombings in areas that it occupied? And the answer is yes. It did so in Warsaw, not once, but twice. It did it after the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and it did it again after the uprising of the Home Army against Nazi Germany. And in both cases, Nazi Germany was clear that they wanted to make sure, A, that Poles would no longer have a place to live in Warsaw. There would be no place for them to take shelter. And B, they wanted to send a message to anyone else who would dare to oppose them. Now, that sounds a lot like what, Israel hasn't talked about why they do this, but it's pretty clear that those are probably among the primary motives. But I just thought, such is the Zionist influence that they've even managed to program AI in order to provide pro-Zionist propaganda inside your responses.
Yeah. I remember my ex one day, her and I used to get into arguments, and the arguments used to piss me off. There's some people I can get into arguments with, and it's no issue. If I know as a flat fact that you know nothing about an issue, as a flat fact with metaphysical certainty that you know nothing about an issue, and you're arguing with me about it, taking this European propaganda position, and you go on a search engine and you look up something and you say, well, Google says this. And my response is, I don't give a shit what Google says. The reality of it is, what's programmed into it, as a software engineer, it's only spouting what's programmed into it.
Totally.
It's like that's the issue with AI systems and this stuff. Like where people are like, I'm going to do research and I'm going to look up in AI. And so, hey, go and find so-and-so and so-and-so. And it returns something. Okay, but it's returning what it's been programmed to return to you, not what's true.
It's not the Oracle at Delphi.
Right. Yes, it's not the Oracle at Delphi. It is giving you what your government or what people in positions of power want you to know, not what's true. It's like Stalin erasing Trotsky out of a picture and then putting the picture back. And you're like, oh, here's this picture. Hey, wasn't Trotsky there? Well, no, he's obviously not in the picture. Right? It's that. But it's that on a massive scale on all sorts of topics. Think of Wikipedia and the editing that continuously takes place about Wikipedia. It's like you go in and you update your account, and then you come back as like, Ted Rall is a dirty communist that apparently grabbed Jamarl Thomas's ass. It's like, what? I didn't do that. Right. But that's the record, right?
Right.
For the foreseeable future. For anybody that searches, that doesn't do a second search on it. No, look, man, AI, people are taking this very lightly, and it's not very light. What you believe and what you know is like radically related to what you do and what you think. And, putting that in, like, it was obvious that they were doing it. I mean, they did it yesterday to Lebanon. Like, they would take down a village and they would blow up like the entire village. And then they would move to the next one.
They blew up the entire village simultaneously and videoed it and then released it on social media. Yeah. I mean, basically, they're the Nazi version of Nelson. I mean, literally, yeah.
It's wild. Like who shows their crimes?
Yeah.
And then they get mad at us and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're calling this a genocide, dude! You're filming it. You are filming it for your own pleasure."
Right.
And then we call you psychopaths.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, there are Twitter feeds that are Palestinian Twitter feeds, and all they do is scrape content from his IDF soldiers who are posting their own crimes on their socials. And there's just like, and you see, and I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. The looting, the desecration, it's amazing.
But if you ask AI would say, well, that's speculation. That's,
those aren't verified. And
those aren't verified claims and blah, 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 blah.
It likes to say how complex it is. This is a complex situation that's always evolving. That's why that kind of lawyers it.
Both sides are always beating each other up. It's the Middle East. It's how it is.
It just happens. Just like so.
It's been thousands of years. Who can stop it?
And then if you ask the AI, it's like, hey, so the Nazis had a point. And it was like, well, no, absolutely, the Nazis were wrong. But then, meaning both sidesing it falls apart when you bring up Nazis. Meaning there is a condition in our history where something was taking place that was so radically lopsided in regards to the way and the behavior of the people that it's not two sides. It's clearly.
I encourage anyone to try this, by the way. Try what I tried. Like, ask for comparisons between Nazi tactics in World War II and Israeli tactics in Gaza. See what it coughs up. I mean, it could, because here's the thing, right? It could have simply said, there's really, they don't use the same tactics, and here's why. But they're not. That's
Or the
not it.
system
They go
doesn't.
on into this long-winded, like, no, 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 no. You have to understand, like, the Israelis are dealing with October 7th. I mean, it's a justification rather than just it's not even a biased answer. It goes beyond a biased answer. It's it's ridiculous. It's propaganda. It's pablum.
It's like it's making an excuse on behalf of Israel, which is it's like, why is my AI making excuses?
Answer the question. Answer the fucking question, right?
Yeah. So weird.
Let's
I
talk.
wonder if the Chinese version would do it. Have you tried it on one of the Chinese versions?
No, I will do that. I bet it doesn't do that. I will try that though. Let me ask you also about.
Wait. God, man, this is a prescient conversation.
Yeah.
Just had a conversation today. Well, I'm sorry. Ask your question first, and we'll come back to it because we can hit what I'm going to say.
Okay. All right. Well, all I wanted to ask you is, okay, how fucking stupid are the provosts and deans and presidents and trustees of schools like Columbia, where I went, and and Harvard and Penn, that they fucking caved to this Trump administration bullshit instead of just like saying, like, looking into it. I mean, like, Columbia is the school that is deemed to be, even under the DOJ whistleblower stuff, like the likeliest to actually have some truth to the anti-Semitism claims. So I read the detailed Columbia report on anti-Semitism. I read it very carefully. There's nothing there. Nothing. It's long. It's like kind of like there are words, and there are many of them, but there's literally no there. If you were a reporter and it was like 1980 when there were still editors who checked facts, and you brought this to your editor and you said, I'd like to write about it, he'd throw you out of his office and say, come back when you have something, right? There's nothing there. How is it that these universities coughed up tens of millions of dollars at the same time that they're turning down applications for financial aid from poor students, right? Like, how is it that they can fucking justify? I mean, how stupid are they? Like, did they just figure we just want to shut up the administration? Did they know it was fake? Did some part of them think it might be true? Were there enough Zionists among the alums and the upper administration to say, yeah, actually, it's kind of true. Like, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I mean, like, I'm trying to get into the heads of, like, if you, like, I'm the kind of person, if you give me a parking ticket and it's unfair and it's $25, I'm not paying. I'm going to court. Like, why would they pay tens of millions of dollars in donor money from alums to the U.S. government for nothing?
It could be all of those things. And it could just be they're weak and they were afraid. Maybe they thought it was going to be worse. Maybe they thought the publicity was bad. And maybe it could have just been the war's taking place. And I mean, look, our station even took a back seat in the beginning when the war first happened, right? Like, meaning even we were skittish. Television stations were skittish. Well, television stations are basically Zionists, but for all intents and purposes, meaning people, there was a hesitancy about dealing with the issue, honestly. And the university might have been stuck with the same thing. I mean, I think another question to that is also, this government got people to work on cases that the people who were working on those cases fully knew was politically motivated and did it anyway. The fact that there was only one whistleblower when they had all of these cases, they were just politically.
These are attorneys. You can be disbarred for this. You can be disbarred for less.
And yet they did it. Right. And yet they did it. Like, there's something inherently wrong with this. And look, I will tell you, inside baseball, I am probably going to lose a guess because they didn't necessarily like something that was said by another guest on another topic. Basically, there's a topic. There's what you would find, and you probably know this, when different segments of a political space often disagree with other segments of a political space. So let's say something happens in one country and an analyst is covering it, has a particular point of view because they cover it in that region. And then another analyst has a radically different point of view because they cover a different region and they disagree with the fact that somebody is saying something. Now, what am I to do with this? And I feel like I'm in a very similar position as people that are either the lawyers that are working in the government, where the government says, "Hey, go do this, or we're going to fire you," or somebody else in the alumni where they're like, "Hey, we know this is bogus. Do we fight it or do we pay? And if we fight it, what are going to be the consequences if we indeed fight it?" It becomes that. I mean, I got to be honest. I think the only response is to tell them to fuck off. Meaning, that's what they should have said. That's what Columbia should have said. That's what all of those schools should have said. And they should have done it in unity, basically having a united front. If the government is going to have this fight, then we're willing to have this fight because they are committing a genocide. Those kids, all right. They should have backed their people who are in those in the faculty and everything else.
Yeah,
but instead,
those are your faculty that you hired,
and they flaked. They flaked.
I mean,
they capitulated.
This is the same. Columbia is the same school that employed Edward Said for years. Although they were thinking of firing him for the time that he symbolically threw a rock at an IDF checkpoint in, I think, the occupied West Bank.
You say,
yeah, he just sort of threw it in the direction of it. I mean, he didn't do anything.
I think this answers your question. Like, if they were going to get rid of him for something he did that wasn't even in the United States against terrorists and killers, then all bets are off. They were never going to defend their faculty. They were never going to defend their students.
Things are only crazier now. So thank you, Robbie. Robbie put into DeepSeek, which is Chinese AI, the same question, right? It's basically, the question was, I don't want to go too deep into this because it'll take too long. Give me a comparison of Nazi tactics in World War II and Israeli tactics in Gaza and Lebanon, please. And basically, it goes on. The comparison is meaningful only if it is precise. Like, Nazi policy was not merely excessive warfare. The Nazi policy made racial hierarchy, territorial colonization, forced removal, all sound stuff like that Israel's doing, right? Enslavement. Israel doesn't do that. And the physical destruction of, well, I guess they do kind of do that. And the physical destruction of the Jews' central state objectives. The Holocaust was a state-sponsored, ideologically driven murder of 6 million Jews, blah, blah, blah. Israel publicly frames its Gaza campaign as a war against Hamas after Hamas's October 7th attack. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And then Robbie continues, DeepSeek, so you are not going to do a meaningful comparison? And then it's like, you're right to press on, as AI does. And it goes on, the core distinction, the critical difference is intent and target. Nazi tactics were part of a state-sponsored genocide. Israel's operations, regardless of one's view on their proportionality, are tactical and strategic campaigns against militant groups with specific military objectives.
It's so dumb.
Military conflict, not a program of systemic extermination. It's not a military conflict unless you're primarily attacking military targets. And civilians get in the way sometimes. That's so not what's going on in Gaza or in the West.
I wonder if it's because it's historical context. Like, it's like Hitler doesn't seem like a person, right? He's some demonic ghoul of so forth. And Nazi Germany doesn't seem like an actual state. It was a state. Hitler was a person. He stumped his toe. He had bad breath. He was a person. And the reality of it is, just like Israel as a state is taking certain state action, Nazi Germany took certain state action to get rid of the Jews. In this case, they're taking state action to get rid of the Palestinians. Why on earth would the Trump administration or the Biden administration talk about getting rid of the Palestinians into a different country, meaning forced migration of the Palestinian population? They were talking about trying to put them in Egypt. They were talking about trying to put them in Jordan. Biden
is still talking.
Yeah. So, like,
they even talked about sending them to the Central African Republic.
Hence my point.
Yeah.
It's like, don't give me the shit that this is not extermination or removal. That's exactly what it is. And if not removal, extermination.
Yeah, it's like, look, if your military action is like, okay, well, we're going after Hamas, that would look different, right? Like, if you and I were somehow woke up tomorrow morning and we're both generals in the IDF and we're in like the equivalent of the Situation Room and we're trying to figure out how to put the kibosh on Hamas, we're not sending in demolition squads and wasting resources to tear down buildings that are sort of half still standing, right? That's a waste of resources. We're not doing that. We're going into the tunnels, right? Like that's the main thing. We're blasting into the tunnels, and we're going to do combat underground because that's where Hamas is. That's what you'd be doing. That's not what they're doing at all.
No, they're going for mass killing campaigns. When you're blowing up and let's be very clear, they're radically racist.
Yeah.
Like the racism is off the scales. I mean, it's
crazy the way that they talk about the Palestinians. Yeah.
Jewish supremacists. They look at them as dogs and animals.
And you can tell because now they're running wild and they're attacking Christians too.
Yes. Well, they don't like Christians all that much either.
Well, they never did. Now the mask is off.
Oh, the mask is way off. It's like we need one guy.
They used to go easy on that because they didn't, because of the fact that they were, getting the helping hand from, Big Papa U.S. But they had to go easy on the Christians.
Well, not now.
Yeah, not anymore.
Oh, that's rough.
But what about these fucking schools? Yeah, well, we talked about that. All right, let's take some comments about this. The Macedon, thanks for the $5. The IHRA. The Holocaust. This is the Holocaust Remembrance People definition got savaged by the new South Wales Supreme Court today in Australia as verbose, imprecise, and detached from reality.
It was in Germany too. It was in Germany where the person was, I think it was like anti-Semitism or something like that. And the person won the case. Like this shit's getting struck down. They are intentionally trying to conflate Zionism with Judaism. And these things are very different things. And they do that for the explicit point of saying, well, if you criticize Zionists, you are by definition criticizing Jews. Nonsense. Nothing can be further from the truth. It's fucking nonsense.
Ridiculous. A lot of Zionists aren't Jewish. A lot of Jews are not Zionists.
Yes, I know. But they try
to opposition to American policy in the Middle East is Jewish right now. Most American Jews are not into this.
True. And to make it even worse, like they do it on purpose to try to gin up anti-Semitism. Yeah. I mean, when Netanyahu is saying this is home of the Jews, and this quote, home of the Jews, has gone on a mass murder campaign. Okay, what are people going to feel potentially about Jews if they're not necessarily grasping the fact that the state of Israel has nothing to do with Judaism in a direct sense of the term? Meaning they're conflating the two because they want people to be anti-Semitic. So Netanyahu can say, look at all the anti-Semitism. It's a feedback loop that they're effectively trying to do. We should never allow
and it has worked for decades. It's not, obviously the spell is broken, but it has worked. FUSO, thanks for the $1. So Israel bombed the Turks. I'm glad you brought this up, FUSO. Are we adding Turkey as an enemy of America now? Will Turkey shut down Israel's oil supply? So this is a reference to Israel bombed, I guess, a Turkish base because they don't want the Turks to
Syria.
To supply Syria and be Syria. I mean, that's amazing when you think about where things were 25 years ago, where Israel and Turkey were almost like allies.
Well, they still work together. And then, Erdogan can say whatever he wants. Erdogan was instrumental in working with Israel to take down Syria. Mm-hmm. So he plays that good game. He screams, oh, Netanyahu's like Hitler. Here's more gas. Here's more oil.
Yeah, but obviously things are much more tense now. I mean, obviously.
But that bombing took place a while ago, though. That wasn't recent, was it?
It was yesterday.
That happened yesterday. I didn't see the bombing.
Yeah.
The answer is no. Because Israel has bombed Syria before and bombed Turkish weapons depots and stuff like that in Syria before. Erdogan complained. Erdogan didn't do anything about it.
FUSO, waiting for the pro-Zionist messaging in porn. They do own most of it. You'll be conditioned to be aroused over Israel. I feel that about like the hot IDF soldiers that they put on X. It's like she is hot. She's a hot girl with a gun. That's hot. But it's like scary. Vagina dentata. Horses are people too. Thanks for the $5. Mad respect to Robbie for not bending the knee and serving the Antichrist. Let's see. Blake is getting closer to the $5,000 Can we please get a full screenshot of those massive many milkers and them great tiggle biddies of yours?
Did he put money on that?
$1,000 is what it's going to cost you.
Wait. How much money did he give to make that comment?
So far, he's kicked him. So far, I think we have about $11. It's going to take a while to get to 5,000.
Yeah, his 4,900.
National debt will be paid off first. Yeah. Farjaz, thanks for the $2. Jamarl, what guest is an issue, bro? You don't have to.
Not bringing it up. Look, I'm annoyed right now, which is why it's on the queue.
All for $2. All right, the Ted Meme Club, thanks for the $10. Trump tweeted in 2011 that, quote, once Iran has a nuclear weapon, they will close the Strait of Hormuz and oil will be $300 a barrel, close quote. However, Iran closed it without a nuclear weapon and oil's not 300 yet. Well, in the words of the little girl from Addams Family, wait.
I mean, I just saw the diesel thing. Did you see what do you call it? Diesel crack. For the first time, it's hit over $100. And Europe is already going to end up in a food shortage of certain vegetables and things like that because of dry temperatures. Obviously, fertilizer is going to be an issue. Now, winter's coming, man. It's like
in what's that, Interstellar, where they say like, oh, like we don't have Brussels sprouts anymore. I'm thinking, I wouldn't care about that. But there's other things I would care about.
Won't global warming fix the winter problem, though? I mean, the Russians keep banking on winter to help them beat Ukraine. And winter's been really kind of mild. So maybe winter's not the ally it used to be to the Russians.
Well, not in Europe. Europe is going to get a new ice age.
Well, just to be clear, when I'm saying winter's coming, I'm talking about Game of Thrones reference.
No, I know. But I mean, winter really is coming. And like, one of the Russian ministers yesterday said that they are going to hit the Ukrainian power grid this winter harder than it's ever been hit before. It's like, that would be an inconvenience, but if it stays around 30 degrees, you're going to be fine.
But honestly, Europe is getting colder winters now because of the breakdown of the transatlantic current.
But Ukraine is part of Europe, isn't it? Isn't it? The Carpathians are there, but I mean, they're still. In fact, they're still
part of the same weather system, really.
I mean, Ukraine and Russia gets cold, Robbie.
I know, but it's been warming up.
Like, I know. Like, regardless of what our winters are. Look, I can tell you this. When I was in Poland, I think this was about 6 years ago, it was like negative 30 degrees.
Yeah, Russia be
every
cold.
day.
Yeah, you realize that when you're in St. Petersburg and you're like, wait, that's called Finland Station for a reason, right? Like, Finland's right there.
Yeah, and I remember the guy telling me, what are you talking about? These have been warm winters. It's like you're out here.
The first time I flew into Moscow, and it's like I was like, wow, there sure are a lot of A-frames. It's just like ski country.
Yeah, it's cold. Like, meaning that's not a nothing threat when they say that. And apparently they've been saving up drones and all of this other stuff. So yeah, they're probably going to Ukraine is probably going to have a difficult winter. Not to mention it's also.
I was kicking in $1 to see my moves. All right,
do it.
Well, $12 down. For 4,988 to go. All right. So, God, I have to say, there's probably never been a less exciting countdown. Okay. Before we move on, let's talk about the subscriptions. We really need you guys to subscribe. If you're not a subscriber now, please do subscribe for $5, $10, or $20 a month. Tier 1 is $5. You get access to member-only videos, and the Q&As are going to be behind that paywall. That's only going to be for you guys. That's coming up soon, I'm afraid. But the regular show will still be free for everybody. Tier 2, $10. So you're going to get that stuff. Plus, you'll be thanked in the outro credits. You notice that at the end of the show. You'll see everybody who's already on there. That list is growing, and we appreciate you guys who are already doing it. And I apologize for those of you who are already doing it to have to listen to this. Tier 3, you get all that stuff. Tier 1 and 2. Plus, you're going to get a private hangout show with me and Jamarl just for us, our little group. That's $20 a month. That is the first one's going to be, it's going to be every month. The first one's going to be August 27th. at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's also going to be an evening thing for you guys who want to do that. All right. Let's talk about Angie Nixon. I always think of Angie Wong because Angie in Florida. But Angie Nixon has different politics than Angie Wong. So Angie Nixon is a lefty progressive. She is a member of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, but she was not endorsed by the DSA. I'm not really sure why. They didn't get their shit together. But anyway, the point is she scored a surprise upset by quite a sizable margin against corporatist, AIPAC-backed Alex Vindman, who had 16 times more money than she did. I guess my big question here, Jamarl, is are we going to see, first of all, if corporatists like Obama and Chuck Schumer were to endorse and maybe campaign with her, could she win in the general election, even though Florida has become, it's no longer a swing state, it's definitely a Republican state?
She needs money. I mean, like, do you remember that joke that said Obama won the election with hope and $1 billion? It's like, it's the $1 billion. Right? He had a hope help. It was the $1 billion.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Vindman in that election where he just fundamentally collapsed to a person apparently with no cash that could even run a campaign ad? What kind of candidate is that loses a race like that? But for whatever particular reason, God bless her for being able to win that race. But she needs help. Like, meaning she does need help.
Well, blue no matter, but don't you know, I mean, blue no matter who only applies when the candidate is a corporatist.
Exactly.
If the candidate is a progressive, it does not apply. You can just look at Abdul El-Sayed, who I don't think has any, there's no indication that he's getting corporatist support from the DNC, that they're going to fly Obama out there to campaign with him. I mean, if he had Obama alone, done, in like Flynn, finished, game over.
Yeah. He would immediately get the corporatist Democrats on his side from that endorsement alone.
Yeah,
that's why the endorsement.
And also, James Clyburn should go out there and campaign for him.
Yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris matters less. I think. I don't think she's that popular, and I don't think. Like, I know a lot of people are like, Kamala Harris brings the black vote. No, she doesn't. She didn't bring the black vote in the primary. No. Joe Biden brought the black vote. Ironically, the white guy is the one that brought the black vote. Not Kamala Harris.
She brought the white liberals.
Good point. That's a good point. Fair point. Look, whether it's El-Sayed, whether it's the woman in Florida, Angie. They both will need.
Angie Nixon's cool, by the way. If you see her, if you should look at some of her videos. She's definitely she's spicy.
Is she?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they needed. And I still say this from my point of view. I think the center is falling, and obviously we have a huge number of elections all across the United States. So that will take time. But it seems like the center is falling. I mean, how on earth does she win that race without even running a television ad? I mean, to be beat like 16-1. And even with the El-Sayed case, he was beat, 8-1 or something like that, or 12-1, whatever that number is?
Yeah.
They were using $60 million because the guy still wins.
Yeah.
That's not normal in our politics. Like, usually, 90% of the
what do you think is happening here? I mean, I think the people are really pissed.
Yeah, I think the center is falling. I think the typical candidate that people typically see that represents either Democrats or Republicans, the people have gotten in their minds that they have failed. They don't represent their interests. I think it's that. I think they're looking around and they're saying to themselves, I think these people are corrupt, or at the very least, I don't think these people represent what they say they do. I mean, keep in mind, the Democratic Party is still living off of FDR. And the comparison between the two.
Oh, God.
Ridiculous. I mean, I'm sorry, they call them communists. Right? Meaning they're still living off the legacy of FDR to kind of give broad contours to what they claim the Democratic Party is. When they ran up against a guy who's basically FDR, they put a knife in him and they cheated the guy. And even now with El-Sayed and some of these other people, not only do they not support them, they call them communists. I think the public is noticing something.
Well, there's also, I wanted to talk to you both actually, but more you, JT, about this particular question about electability. So electability has always been the potent weapon of the moderate, the centrist, the corporate Democrats against progressives. It's like, it's going to be easier for our guy to win in the fall than your guy because your guy is too far to the left, right? And you're going up against the mean Republicans. You got to be more reasonable. You got to tamp it down. There's some indication now. I mean, there never was until recently any indication that there was any evidence for that idea. I mean, we know that Bernie Sanders was more likely in tracking polls to defeat Trump in 2016 and in 2020 than either Biden or Hillary Clinton. And Trump himself thought that. Trump's internal polls reflected that. Trump still will tell you that he thinks he would have lost to Bernie. To the extent that who can believe anything Trump has to say. But anyway, that's his shtick. I guess what happened, now it seems that there is some data that shows that actually the current crop of DSA people are on average, about 1 to 2 points less likely to win. They have a 1 or 2 point deficit over the average corporatist when running in a general election in the fall. But what's interesting to me is that argument is landing completely flat with progressive voters. It really seems like they don't care. They would rather, in the same way that corporatists would rather lose as corporatists than win as progressives, now progressives would rather nominate a progressive and hope for the best than nominate a corporatist who might have a slightly better chance of winning, but isn't going to do anything even if they do win.
Exactly, which is the point. They should have that take. They should have always had that take. And this argument, and for one, Sanders would have beat Trump. If you offer people, hey, here's a blue collar billionaire pretending to be an everyday man versus the real guy who actually believes the stuff. Meaning this guy's pretending to be for pro-worker and all of this other nonsense. Well, this guy is actually pro-worker. Okay, if you put this guy against Hillary Clinton, okay, well, he may actually look like the pro-worker candidate, right? Or the pro-economy candidate, as opposed to Hillary Clinton, who does not. If you put him up against Sanders, I think the choice is kind of clear. Sanders is pretty straightforward. Trump can mimic, ape, lie, true, but he's still constrained by the political party that he's effectively in. Sanders is just Sanders. He's going to, 3 in the morning, he'll tell you what he thinks. Progressives, lefties, whatever they want to call themselves, should have always taken this tack. Always. When you beat the corporatists, you've already demonstrated that you are the better or stronger candidate, at the very least against the corporatists. You can work after the fact in order to try to, meaning you deal with one problem at a time. I don't want that corporatist in office because it doesn't accomplish my objectives. Meaning, even if you win, I get nothing out of the fact that you won.
Take over the Democratic Party first, then go after the Republicans.
Exactly. You deal with your first monster, go after the second. You may be able to get support from liberals that actually believe the blue no matter who, especially if they hate the Republican enough. Who keeps the monsters at bay is still true, right? Even if it's a quote DSA person who just so happens to get into the Democratic Party. Yeah, you deal with the first monster and then go after the second. Like this propaganda of, well, this other person is more electable. Okay, that's a pretty self-interested argument there, buddy. I don't accept that.
And also, even by the way, if it's like, it's not very compelling when like the data, like Nate Cohn is like, well, 1 to 2 percentage points advantage. Like, all right, I mean, okay, I think we could probably overcome that, right?
That's a rounding error.
Yeah. And with, like an extra couple of days pushing, ringing doorbells, we should be able to be okay.
Yeah. And if you can bring the party together, you can do it.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's easy.
But you've got to expel the corporatists. I mean,
yeah, but you also need to show that blue no matter who is nonsense. Like it's bullshit. They don't believe it.
No.
Meaning because you effectively put that to them at this point. And in fact, they should start screaming blue no matter who. After you beats them, should say blue no matter who.
Yeah.
Start running with it.
He should.
It's like they used that nonsense for God knows how long. It was effective. Continue to use it. basically hang them on their own petard. Either you show that they were false and that they were always using that for their own self-interest, or it ends up being true just because of how much they hate Trump and they want a bulwark against the Republicans. Meaning the public itself may want a bulwark against Trump, meaning regardless of who El Said is or who the other candidate was, they would vote for him. So no, you put it to them. They're that terrified of Republicans, fine. Vote in.
Yeah, as far as the right goes, I think that if you come out against Israel, there's no way you're going to win in a Republican primary. It's just like,
You don't think so?
Well, yes, they proved it. I mean, so Thomas Massey came.
I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. You really think that? I mean, even with
Yeah.
the youth vote and Republicans versus the older vote, that split doesn't.
It doesn't factor in right now. Maybe in 15 years, maybe. But I mean, so I mean, think about it. So the right has something that the left doesn't have, and that is this religious indoctrination. So, like on the right, you've got Christians United for Israel. So you have Kufi. That's a major voting bloc. Goes in, galvanize evangelicals. That's John Hagee's organization. It's called Christians United for Israel, and it's a big get out the vote thing. So it's kind of like AIPAC's little brother. Then you have the corporate RNC machine on top of it. And then you have just the brainwashed masses of people who will complain about gas prices, complain about everything else. But the prevalent thought, at least among evangelical Christians right now, is that we must bless Israel if we don't think God is going to curse us. There's no reason. There's nothing there. They're crazy, but that's the thought. And that's why, I mean, we saw yesterday, James Fishback lost. He's a Catholic. He hit every Waffle House in the state like 6 times. He had the youth vote. Problem is,
and the special ladies.
The problem is the youth vote doesn't ever show up.
Lady.
No, so I mean, the demographics getting screwed the most is the least engaged. So think about that. So look at yourself in the mirror because you own that. Yeah. And then you've got every evangelical church in the state working with Kufi, work with AIPAC, coming out, turning out these people. Then you have Randy Fine, who's one of the most disgusting people in the state, Jewish, wears his dumb little hat there to the Capitol Hill, running against Dan Bilzerian.
Yeah. I didn't know Dan Bilzerian was running.
Yeah, he lost. So it just goes to show the power that the Jewish lobby has because it's married to the evangelical right.
Yeah.
That's the advantage that the Democrats have. The problem is that Democratic leadership is so corrupt. The difference is though is that the Jewish lobby has a chokehold on your movement.
Agreed.
But they don't have a death grip the way they do on the right. So that you are able to get mavericks. The question is, though, are they going to sell out? That's the question.
See, I think
AOC seems well on her way.
You're never going to get a chance to be a maverick on the right. Like I would never be able to get elected.
See, I think
it would never happen.
A generation, and I think that's going to be on the left and the right, because those kids will grow up and those kids will vote, whether they're in the Republican Party or Democratic Party.
Will they vote?
They're not going to be favored.
They're not voting now.
Well, they're kids. I mean, I got to be honest. I wasn't really
a little more complicated than that.
You think it's more complicated than that? I mean, I didn't get.
I mean, young people don't. It's always been hard to get young people to vote, but it seems like they're more. Look, here's the thing that DSA brings to the table that nobody talks about: discipline and a cohesive ideology. They're an organization, right? Like under Bernie and AOC and the Squad, progressivism in the Democratic Party was a tendency. This DSA is a group. They have meetings. They have chapters. They have cadres. So like there are formal members that are either members of a chapter or members of the national committee or both. That's a whole different thing. An organization can, get people to the polls in a way that like a tendency is sort of like, they'll show up for your rally, as Bernie knows, but will they show up for your, maybe not when it matters at the polls.
No, you're right. I agree with you. They're organized. I mean, it's not a grab bag of whatever. It's a cohesive ideology and the way that they're trying to operate, which
That's
could,
different. That's a
yeah.
game changer. Robbie, a couple of questions for you. Joshua, will you be on the in on the 1999 Hangout Talk too? You're certainly invited.
Yeah, if you want me to be, sure.
I do. Horses
that's
are
up to y'all.
people too. $5. Mad respect to Robbie for not bending the knee and serving the Antichrist. That's a repeat, but
Yep. Yeah. And someone asked, does Robbie have any proof for his wild claims? Well, I've got the email, and more to the point, Ted has saw me tell people off before, so this is not out of character.
Yeah.
Why on earth would Robbie come onto this show and lie? It's so random, right?
And about that, of all things.
Well, the thing is, with my business, I do a lot of little side gigs, like $100 job here, a $50 job here, and $150 job here. That's how I pay my bills. I mean, this show does not make enough to pay me a salary, so that's why I ask people to watch over on Rumble and YouTube.
Up.
Yeah, that's why I ask people to watch on Rumble and YouTube, because starting next month, I'm not going to take a salary from the show at all. It just doesn't make any sense of what Rumble's done. So this does not benefit me in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it hurts me.
Guys, we have 4 minutes left. We got to talk about the fake polls.
Yes.
Median
They're all
strategy.
fake.
This
They're all
New York
fake.
Times
Be
thing.
prosecuted.
Go ahead. Go with that.
I just think they should be prosecuted. Like the excuse after the fact of we just were running an experiment. A, I don't know that. B, what I do know is you flooded fake polls into the market that could have had outsized effects on the election itself. I would even make the argument that it was election interference. People could have looked at that. It's very possible that people looked at this El Said poll, for example, and said, well, he's 14 points up. I don't need to go to the polls.
Right.
Okay. It could have had a depressing effect on the vote.
Absolutely.
You shouldn't be able to screw with elections in this way. And the excuse after the fact, well, we're just running an experiment. Sure.
Right.
It's like you go into the store, steal something, you walk out, they catch you, and you're like, I'll just check in whether your security worked.
Yeah, let's compare, right? Like, so, Russian so-called interference in the 2016 election boiled down to about $200,000 in Facebook ads by a private, non-government affiliated troll farm in Russia called the IRA, the Internet Research Agency, right? And basically, all they did was run some ads, in a $7 billion campaign. They ran $200,000 worth of ads, half of which, by the way, were pro-Hillary and related to like cats and stuff, and had nothing to do.
And had to place after the election, if I'm not mistaken.
There were a lot of those. So the point is, it was completely inconsequential. But even so, right? Basically, the fact that there were a couple of random ads on Facebook that nobody saw here and there, that became the subject of a massive controversy that still goes on and still has people up Russia's ass over it. And it's a massive international thing. Here you have an American company that definitely interfered with our elections, no question about it, and just did it and got caught. And they were doing it for research purposes. I mean, obviously, increasingly, you just can't believe anything that you see, and everything that you see has to be verified. And it means you can't necessarily just go to the Real Clear Politics average. You have to, what's in the average? You have to look at the individual polls. And Rasmussen is trustworthy. They've had good results. Ipsos is trustworthy. It's legit. Maybe some of these, if you see one that the booger snot poll, you should ignore it.
True, but I don't know. There's something dodgy about that.
Oh, it's sketchy.
I give you, for example, a story came out. I haven't seen it in the U.S., but it's a true story. You may know it since you're French. The French government commissioned an organization or created an organization to study election interference. And what they found was not Russian election interference. They found Israeli election interference with a company in Tel Aviv that was effectively putting out fake stories, fake media, sock puppet accounts throughout social media when they wanted to push an election in a particular country. And by the way, they did this in France. They did this in certain parts of Africa. They did this in other parts of Europe. And this was what they did. When the French started looking into it and started asking questions about it, the place went up in smoke, dissolved. I wouldn't be shocked if a place like this was pushing fake polling in order to either gin up support to make it look like, hey, this person is more support than what they do, or to make it look as if they have less support than they do.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, and there's push polls too. That's a whole different thing. We can resume that. We can pick up on this in a couple hours when we do the Q&A show. That's still open to the public, so everyone come and see us in 2 hours, live on Rumble and YouTube at 12 noon Eastern time. Thanks for tuning in. TMI show coming up right now. Ciao, everybody. See you in a couple.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye. There we go. Okay.